Hey guys, Dr. Adil here. Today I wanted to talk about longevity. The reason I wanted to touch on this topic is because it's a very hot topic and there's lots of people in the space talking about how you can live longer, and they talk about fasting, they talk about calorie restriction, but there's not enough discussion about muscle. And I'm going to go into why I think David Sinclair is missing the big picture, and he focuses too much on small mechanisms and too much on supplements and not enough on actual building muscle. So for those of you who don't know, David Sinclair is a prominent longevity and health researcher from Harvard University. He's been cited thousands of times and he's very well known in the public eye because of his comments about longevity and different supplements like NAD+ that can help with longevity and some of his research in this field. Most of his research is focused on mice and is focused on mechanisms, which what this means is he's focusing on basic science mechanisms, not necessarily clinical outcomes and long-term data. And so there's a lot of extrapolation that goes on when he makes claims about certain supplements and about certain mechanistic pathways that may help with longevity. So for example, one of the biggest things that he promotes is calorie restriction. He talks about if you have less calories, you're activating less of what's called the mTOR pathway, which is for protein synthesis and can help build muscle. And he says you should activate less of this because you're going to have less growth factors over time and less likely of cancer and less likely development of issues down the road. However, he's missing the big picture, which is muscle. So the reason I want to get into this is because muscle isn't just there to look good and just to make you feel better. It's actually doing something in your body. What that something is we're just trying to understand. Before, we didn't have the diagnostic tools to really understand how muscle exerts its beneficial effects on the body, but due to improvement in diagnostics in terms of cellular physiology, we better understand what muscle actually does. So it's not just that muscle sitting there and helping protect your body, it's actually releasing cellular signals and doing a whole lot. So one way it does this is through myokines. So myokines are little cellular messengers. They're communicating through your body to decrease the risk of cancer, to increase insulin resistance, and to promote longevity through different cellular pathways. So there are 7 types of aging pathways that have been well defined. And as far as I know, exercise, especially putting on muscle, is the only way to actually modify all these pathways. So for example, mitochondrial dysfunction is one of the problems as you age, and working out regularly can help to prevent this. Same with something called stem cell exhaustion, where your stem cells don't reproduce as much and don't have the same capacity, but exercise can help with this as well. And there's another one called telomere length that it can help as well. And not only that, there's been large meta-analysis which looks at thousands of patients to see how long they live when they have more strength. So for example, there's a study done at Tufts University that looked just at grip strength and that found that people who have more grip strength tend to live longer. So we already know there's a correlation between strength and longevity. And imagine if we actually had a study looking at squats or deadlifts and how they correlate with longevity. I can bet you that if you have more strength in your lower body, you're going to live longer just because that's where most of your muscle is. And not only that, you're going to have less functional decline as you age. So it's not just about necessarily living longer, but it's also about aging gracefully. And the only way to do both is to put on muscle. Now, the other cool thing about muscle that we've learned recently is something called extracellular vesicles. So extracellular vesicles, you can think of like little cargo messengers, and they carry a whole bunch of different factors in there, growth factors, anti-inflammatory cells, and they're basically little packages that get delivered throughout the body. So extracellular vesicles are something that gets secreted from muscle as well, and they communicate throughout your whole body to decrease inflammation. And chronic inflammation is one of the biggest reasons why we age and why we get disease. Heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, joint osteoarthritis, they're all linked to chronic inflammation. So aging has actually been called inflammaging because it's a combination of inflammation that really leads to aging. And so if we can slow down inflammation or even prevent it altogether, that's the best way to combat aging and help you live longer. And so the biggest issue I find with people like David Sinclair is they don't really work out themselves. Maybe he works out a little bit, maybe he does some cardio, but I certainly haven't seen him lift anything heavy. And so because obviously I have the experience of lifting very heavy, 500-600 pound deadlifts, I also understand the importance of muscle and longevity, and I've looked into research a lot. It's not just coming from a bro perspective of being a guy who works out, there's actual real science behind this. And people get misled in thinking there's supplements and calorie restrictions and fasting and all this to help them live longer, when in reality what they need to prioritize first is putting on muscle. The other stuff is more secondary, but at the end of the day, putting on muscle is what's going to allow you to live a long, healthy life and quality of life. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. So share this video with someone who you think will appreciate the health and longevity. I think everyone would appreciate that. So share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.